Current Issues in Linguistic Theory is an exploration of the underlying principles of language structure and how these principles can be formalized within a scientific framework. Chomsky critiques existing linguistic models and proposes a new approach to understanding language that emphasizes the importance of syntax and the generative capacity of human languages. The book is divided into various sections, each tackling different aspects of linguistic theory, from the limitations of structuralism to the implications of generative grammar. Chomsky begins by critiquing the structuralist approach to linguistics, which was dominant during the early 20th century. Structuralism, primarily associated with linguists like Ferdinand de Saussure and Leonard Bloomfield, emphasized the systematic study of language through the identification and categorization of its elements, phonemes, morphemes, and syntax, based on observable data. Chomsky argues that structuralism is inadequate because it focuses too much on surface-level phenomena and fails to account for the deeper, more abstract rules that govern language. Structuralists, according to Chomsky, tend to treat language as a set of finite, observable patterns that can be catalogued without considering the mental processes that generate these patterns. He asserts that language is not just a collection of sentences or utterances, but a system of rules that allows for the infinite production of novel sentences. This generative aspect of language, which cannot be fully explained by structuralist methods, is what Chomsky aims to address with his new theoretical framework. A central concept in Current Issues in Linguistic Theory is that of generative grammar, which Chomsky defines as a set of rules or principles that can generate all the grammatical sentences in a language and exclude ungrammatical ones. Generative grammar is not concerned with the actual production of speech, but with the underlying competence that allows speakers to produce and understand an infinite number of sentences. Chomsky introduces the notion of deep structure and surface structure as key components of generative grammar. The deep structure represents the underlying syntactic structure of a sentence, which is transformed into the surface structure, the actual spoken or written sentence, through a series of transformational rules. For example, the deep structure of the sentence "the cat is on the mat" might be something like subject cat, predicate be on the mat, which is then transformed into the surface structure by applying specific grammatical rules. This distinction between deep and surface structures is crucial because it allows Chomsky to explain various linguistic phenomena that structuralism cannot, such as ambiguities and the similarities between different sentences that have different surface forms but similar deep structures. The transformational rules are the operations that convert deep structures into surface structures, and they are an essential part of Chomsky's generative grammar. Another important distinction Chomsky makes in this book is between competence and performance. Competence refers to the innate knowledge of a language that a speaker has, including the ability to generate and understand sentences that they may never have heard before. Performance, on the other hand, refers to the actual use of language in real situations, which can be affected by various factors, such as memory limitations, distractions, or errors. Chomsky argues that linguistic theory should focus primarily on competence rather than performance, This is because performance can be influenced by many external factors, making it an unreliable source for understanding the fundamental principles of language. By focusing on competence, linguists can better understand the underlying rules and structures that make language possible. Chomsky's concept of universal grammar is another key idea introduced in current issues in linguistic theory. He suggests that all human languages share a common underlying structure, which he refers to as universal grammar. This concept is based on the observation that despite the vast differences between languages, there are certain grammatical principles that appear to be universal. For example, all languages have a way of expressing negation, asking questions, and indicating tense. Universal grammar, according to Chomsky, is an innate feature of the human brain, which explains why children can learn complex languages so quickly and with relatively little input. This idea challenges the behaviorist view, which posits that language learning is purely a matter of stimulus and response. Instead, Chomsky argues that humans are born with a pre-existing framework for understanding language, which is then filled in as they are exposed to specific languages. The implications of Chomsky's ideas in current issues in linguistic theory are vast and far-reaching. By shifting the focus from the surface-level analysis of language to the underlying rules and principles that govern its structure, Chomsky opened up new avenues for research in linguistics. His work laid the foundation for the field of generative grammar, which has since become a central area of study in linguistics. Chomsky's emphasis on the innate aspects of language acquisition also had a significant impact on the study of psycholinguistics and cognitive science. His ideas contributed to the decline of behaviorism in psychology and the rise of cognitive approaches that focus on the mental processes involved in language and other forms of knowledge. Chomsky's work has had broader implications beyond linguistics. His ideas about the generative nature of language and the concept of universal grammar have influenced fields such as philosophy, anthropology, and artificial intelligence. For example, his ideas have been used to argue for the existence of innate cognitive structures that are not limited to language but also apply to other forms of human knowledge and reasoning.